Welcome back to the Casey Adams Show. Today I am joined by Cole Swider. Thank you so much for coming on, Cole.
Hey, no doubt, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Of course. No, we met, I want to say like 3-4 months ago at the Chargers game. And ever since I followed you, it's been epic just seeing all your content, the recent podcast, and more so just understanding your story. I know we have some mutual friends, Jordan from Super Coffee and everything, but excited to dive in today, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's been crazy. It's been a crazy last couple of years, and yeah, I know Jordan from literally when I was 14 years old. I met Jordan.
Oh my god!
So we've gone back and forth on Instagram and text and everything like that. But it's cool to see like another coming up in the industry. So yeah. Definitely.
So how long have you been playing with the Lakers now?
So it's my rookie year. Yeah. So last year I graduated from Syracuse University, and after the draft got picked up by the Lakers, and moved with them ever since. Yeah.
I know you were. You transferred to Syracuse from Villanova, correct? Yep. Basketball, right? Like this has been your entire life. Where did this passion for the game even come from? And when did you realize, like, all right, I'm gonna go down this path and see how far I can go and aspire to be in the NBA? Like, where did this passion begin?
Yeah, so I mean, it starts off with my parents. My dad's 6'8", my mom's 6'3", so the genes are there. My dad played at Fordham University. My mom played at University of New Hampshire, so 2 Division I programs.
Wow!
And from the day I was born, my dad kind of put the ball in my hands, right? So my parents actually started the youth basketball league in town when I was in 2nd grade. So they kind of gave me like this access to the gym.
Wow.
The abilities to play against my friends, and my dad always played me up, right? So when I was in 2nd grade, I was playing against 4th and 5th graders. When I was in 3rd grade, playing against 5th and 6th graders. So kind of just developed a love for the game. And when I realized I loved the game, it was after my 3rd grade season. I started crying because I was just so sad basketball season was over. I didn't want to play baseball. Like I remember I was begging my dad, like, please let me play AAU basketball because AAU basketball started in the spring and I'd be able to keep on playing. So I remember it was funny. I remember my mom, like he had to convince my mom, right? So I have 3 little siblings. I got all of them downstairs in the basement so they could have a quiet dinner. and my dad introduced the idea of me playing AAU to my mom. So,
oh my God.
So ever since then, I just fell in love with it. I pride myself being a hard worker. Yeah. And ever since then, I've just kind of followed my dream and chased it.
That's crazy. I mean, just hearing that too, it's like from the genes to like growing up with the ball in your hand pretty much. Like it's so cool to even understand that, right? Because it's like a natural gift that your parents were obviously great at and instilled those qualities into you. When you talk about like playing other sports, did you play any other sports growing up, or was it like you tried different things but you just always knew basketball was the main thing?
Yeah, so I played baseball. I played baseball up until like my 8th grade year. I had 1 year on the big field, and then after that I was done. And then I played football up until my freshman year of high school. So I was a 3-sport athlete, but I knew basketball was always like my route that I wanted to go.
What position did you play in football?
I was a wide receiver. I was like a DM when I was younger, and I got skinny, so I was like a corner. And then in baseball, I was a pitcher and a first baseman.
Epic, man. I grew up an athlete myself. I'm not, my mom's 5 foot, my dad's 5'7", so I didn't have that natural height ability in a sense. But I played hockey for 10 years growing up. I picked up a stick when I was 3 years old. Then played lacrosse, and then into high school I was playing football. And that's actually how I got into this whole world of business and podcasting, was sort of by accident, where I got injured playing football. I was in sophomore. I ended up getting diagnosed with interspinous ligament damage. So I was in a neck brace for 6 months after a hit, literally like the first hitting practice of the year, got injured, could never play football again. And that's just for me when I had to go a completely different direction in life. And, I had the goals and the dreams to go to college, play lacrosse, and like had that ambition, but I had to then channel it differently. And, looking back, it's been the biggest blessing in disguise, but it's so cool to hear stories of, people that have that mission and actually do it, because it's a very small percentage of people that not only go to college to play sports, but go to D1, but then actually get drafted to a league, whether that's NFL, NBA. For you, when you were going to college to Villanova initially, what was that transitionary process like from high school to college? And like, what were some of the key moments in your life that you remember from that time?
Yeah, I mean, for me, going to college was a big step, right? Like, a lot of guys, people from where I'm from a small state of Rhode Island, right? So there was one guy that I knew that went on to play high major college basketball from where I was from. His name was Andrew Stravitz. He was a great player at Butler University, but after that, there was like no one.
Wow.
So
you didn't really have many like people from your town or anything that you could be like, oh, look at that, they did it.
Exactly. So when I come into Villanova, I was down to Duke, Syracuse, Xavier, Villanova. When I came into Villanova, it was a big deal in my town. I was a top 50 player in the country. I mean, in my mind, you know, like, and everything, right? Like there's obstacles, there's the journey, there's all these different things. There's adversity that you face along the line. But in my mind, I was like, shoot, I'm going to be here for 2 years and then go to the NBA. But when I got there, I realized like I was a small fish again. You know what I mean? I went from being the best player in my state, one of the best players in New England, one of the best players in the country, to now I'm a freshman on a program that just won a national championship, just sent 4 players in the NBA. So I kind of had to restart from where I was. And
when did you realize that? Like, you obviously have these thoughts of what college ball will be like. Yeah. When did you realize, like, okay, like small fish, big pond again, and you got to level up in a sense and grow as a player?
Honestly, it was probably my first practice. My first practice, we had 2 guys who ended up going to the NBA, or we had more than that, but Eric Paschal, who was on the Warriors, and then Utah Jazz, he's out of the league right now. He'll probably get back in. And then we had Saddiq Bey, who's on the Pistons right now. And they were a lot more physical than me. They kind of fit the style of basketball that Villanova wanted to play. It's a defensive-oriented program, all about strength and toughness and out-toughing people. And it kind of showed me that I wasn't ready physically. And those guys were physically ready and kicking my ass every single day. So right then and there, I kind of realized, like, all right, I have to reset. And it really humbled me that first year, because everyone goes from, oh, you're the best, you're going to make the NBA, you're doing this and that, to now it's like I'm not even getting off the bench.
Yeah, wow.
So I'm playing 7 minutes a game. I break my hand. I'm out for 16 games. And
after you broke your hand?
After I broke my hand. So
was that freshman year?
My freshman year, yep.
Damn, how did that happen?
We were in practice. I was going for a steal, hit my hand the wrong way, broke this bone right here. So,
oh my God,
everything just kind of restarted for me.
I mean, even just like briefly touching on my story of like getting injured, what did that do for you mentally? Because like for me, and I feel like as any athlete, getting injured is just the worst case scenario. You don't know what it's going to lead to. It's going to affect your playing long term.
Yeah.
What was that injury like? And like, what was that experience throughout those 16 weeks, and how did you think about it? Because I know like we can go over like, oh, I got injured, I got this, but like I want to dive into that, because I'm sure it was a huge deal in the moment, and it probably affected how you think and just your day-to-day life, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, my freshman year was a tough year just in general, right? Like I was transitioning from not being home for the first time, being away from my family. My family was still coming to games, but like I wouldn't say that year I was particularly close to anyone on the team, so I was kind of finding myself again, right? And when I broke my hand, it was like, all right, now I can't even go out there. I was just starting to like play better after struggling the first like 15 games. And then I break my hand, I'm basically out for the season. So during that time, I really got to find myself of who I was, and I got to grow. So I wasn't able to put in the work every single day on the court, but I was able to work on my mental. I started getting into my faith. I really started to realize who I was as a person, and being 19 years old and kind of experiencing, like, to me, it was failure, right? Like I looked at it as like the worst case scenario
because of like the injury specifically.
Well, just the way I was playing, the situation I was in, going from the top 35 player scene, like
that's such a mental roller coaster. I'm sure.
So I know this now, but comparison is the thief of joy. Yep. But I see guys who I was better than in high school going to the NBA, being a first round pick, like a guy who was ranked lower than me on my team coming in and taking my spot. Yeah, and kind of like this ever revolving these things happening to me, and I stay consistent with the work, but it was tough mentally.
Absolutely. When you talk about, like, for me, just the last really like 6 months, I've been doing a lot of things that have I say like sharpened my mind, where obviously I got the cold plunge outside. I've been doing that every day. I ran my first marathon in December, and like I didn't grow up a runner. I never really strived to run long distance, but for me it was such a mental battle of not only going the distance, but just beating a time and also going the distance and knowing that, hey, like I'm capable of doing that. Yeah. And for me, I interviewed this guy. His name's James Lawrence. He ran 100 in one Ironman's back to back over the course of 101 days. And when I interviewed him, he talked about this simple idea of embracing the suck and like doing the hard things, because in life, like you're going to suffer through whether that's mental challenges, physical challenges. And when you talk about like this first season, you had to sharpen your mental. What did that look like for you? And what were some of the things that you did to sharpen your mental as you continue to grow as an athlete?
Yeah, I want to say that year I particularly had the right outlets for dealing with those things, right? So my sophomore year, I started out the year great. I started getting into my faith. I realized these things, but my faith has been something that has grown on me over time. Just believing in God's plan, reading the scripture, just trying to do the right things in order to that. But my sophomore year, I started playing really well. I was starting. We were a top 10 team in the country.
Yep.
And then I lost my spot again. And as the season went on, I started getting less and less minutes. And I'm playing for a Hall of Fame coach at the time, Jay Wright, who you can't really question what he says, because it's like he's won 2 national championships the last 3 years. He's done all these things. So for me, it was like, all right, like how do I help myself going into my junior year, because the COVID shutdown happens right at the end of our season.
Oh, yeah. That is such a crazy time in history to be an athlete. When you look at those 4 years and, you know, the time.
Yeah.
Like, what did that look like? And what was that journey for you? I mean, you and, you know, the people you're playing with, like that's never happened before in sports history the way it did.
Yeah.
Like, what was that journey like?
So we're literally getting ready to play in the Big East tournament. We're in New York City, and we're getting, like, we literally go through our walkthrough and all these things, and literally on ESPN it just says like the NBA shut down their season. So we're thinking like
that was I remember that was like the first indicator of like, oh, things are really shutting down.
Yeah. So the NBA shuts down their season, and our games are still scheduled to play. So we're like, all right, like maybe we won't have any fans. The night before they had fans. It was like this crazy, like my grandparents were coming up to watch the games and everything like that. And so yeah, we're literally getting ready to go to the arena. We're having lunch as a team, having a team meeting, going over the scouting report. We're playing at DePaul University that night. And our coach comes in, he's like, hey, like they're going to start this game, but after this game, they're going to cancel the Big East tournament. They're probably going to cancel the NCAA tournament. So at that time, we're a top 10 team. We have national championship aspirations.
Wow.
We have guys who are projected NBA picks, who are playing the seniors who are playing the last college game. And we have to deal with the fact that we're not going to play anymore.
Wow.
So we get back and they cancel the NCAA tournament. Our season's over.
That's crazy.
And at that time, like our coach was like, "Hey, like we're gonna take like a week off. We'll be back playing."
Yeah.
And then it ends up being 6 months till we even get back on campus and start practicing again. But during that time, like my dad introduced me to this book called The Mindful Athlete and George Mumford. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he worked with Michael Jordan. He worked with Kobe Bryant. He worked. He was close with Phil Jackson. That's when I started really getting into meditation. And
I didn't know you were into meditation like that.
Yeah. So I started getting into meditation, and that's when I really started to sharpen my mind and find these things that could help me. Because when I got back to Villanova, I wanted to be the best possible version of myself, mentally, physically, emotionally, and give myself the best chance to have a big year.
Wow. So that book, prior to reading that, did you ever meditate, or were you like in that world at all of like taking time, mindfulness, or was that like a whole introduction to it?
Yeah, it was. I think naturally as an athlete, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. But
for sure.
I was that kid, 9 years old on the mound. My teammate makes a mistake. I'm crying. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I've always been so competitive. Like,
yep.
I didn't make a all-star team when I was 9 years. I was the best player in the whole entire Little League, but I didn't make the all-star team because the coach wanted to teach me a lesson of you can't overreact. Like you can't cry, you can't do this and that. I remember like my dad's still mad about it to this day. like how this guy kind of.
When did you know that it was a lesson that he wanted to teach you? Did he tell you like years later? Or was it just like,
Yeah, it was one of those things where it's like it could have been handled differently, right? Yeah. And my parents still have a grudge towards it, but it was one of those things where it was just like I was so competitive and so like get worked up over me throwing a bad pitch or this and that. So like I went to like this sports psychologist when I was like 10 years old, and we talked about breathing through the stomach. So I had that kind of introduction to meditation, but as I got older, I didn't have the tears, but I would have the anxiety of performing well, especially when I got to college. Because in high school, like you're better than a lot of guys. I'm 6'9". I was dribbling the ball, doing all those things.
Yep.
So I never really had to deal with like the failure. Once I got to college, I realized that failure, and I'm the hardest working player on the team. I'm eating the best. I'm getting in extra lifts. And I'm still not seeing those results. So that's when I really started to meditate, because it's like I want to be present in the moment when I get my opportunity. Like
totally.
And yeah, man. So that's kind of how my meditation really started. And my dad introduced me to that book. It showed me like, all right, Michael Jordan, the best player ever, used to meditate before games. Kobe Bryant, he made it a part of his routine every single day to meditate. So those things would keep these guys present and keep them, because they have all these anxieties about performing well and everything like that too. Totally. But they are able to be present and be in the moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure I've gone through ebbs and flows of, going months meditating every day and then going through times where I get off my game, and it makes a huge difference in my life. Like just taking, whether that's 60 seconds or 10, 15 minutes and being present.
Yeah.
Like for me, it completely shifts like how you think about your day, how you react to certain situations. And, I think just even while I was training for my marathon from a physical aspect, the guy I interviewed, James Lawrence, was just talked about being present and focusing on that next step in front of you, right? Like you can only truly focus on that if and you can't overthink about the outcome of the game or the outcome of the event. For you, do you notice yourself when, let's say you do a bad play or you mess up, how do you react to those situations now versus, back in the day when you didn't have this like mental sharpness of meditation and being present and being able to move on and, just be adaptable in situations?
Well, I think the biggest part of meditating and being in the moment is realizing like you're still going to have days where you don't have that mental sharpness, right? And I think for me now is I realize it faster. So like certain things like no coffee on game days helps me, because I get jittery, right? So I figured that out last year. It's like
good thing they got super energy, right?
Exactly. There's things like super energy now, right?
That's great.
But yeah, like no coffee on game days. Like I take calm gummies some days before game days. I'm feeling extra jittery. Like there's certain things like that where, along with my meditation, I've kind of found this routine, right? So I feel like when I play my best, I'm in the moment. I'm doing these things, and I don't react to simple plays, right? Like you want to control everything you can control on the court. There's 9 other guys out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can't control everything that goes on the court. Like you might not touch the ball for 4 or 5 possessions. Like you might be angry, but at the end of the day, like you being angry in the moment is not going to help your team or yourself be successful, right? So it's finding ways to be in the moment, try and make the right play, do everything you can to prepare yourself for that moment, and that ultimately gives me the peace to go out there and play. Am I perfect? No, I still have games where I'm upset, I'm angry, but I can realize that, right? My dad always says the first step of getting better is realizing. So
powerful.
So yeah, man, I think for me it's an ever evolving thing for me. I still have a lot of room to grow. I'm proud of the steps that I've made, but I'm ever evolving.
Yeah, no, that's super powerful. And just to like pivot the conversation a little bit, you're 23, right?
Yeah.
You're 23. You play for the Lakers. It's your rookie season. Like just 4 years ago, this for you was a dream, right? How has it been for your rookie season, and what has this transition looked like in your life? And I just want to talk about it, right? Like the day you got the call, actually being at the first game, the first practice. Like what has your experience been with the Lakers so far? And just give us a rundown of the last year of your life.
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to after my junior year at Villanova, I decided to transfer to Syracuse for my last year. And at that time, everyone had kind of counted me out for the NBA, right?
Wow.
I had the size, I had the skill, but I hadn't played major minutes. I hadn't really started yet. So after that year, my family and I decided that the best option for me would be to transfer. So going into the portal, I literally just left everything up to God, and I realized that Syracuse was the best fit for me to go in that path. And I started the season off at Syracuse. I was playing a lot of minutes for the first time. I started off not great. I say this all the time, like in basketball, I'm a 3-point shooter. I started, and everything's based off of percentages, right? So being a good 3-point shooter is like 40%. I started off the season like 3 for 25, like 12% from 3. So I had to climb myself out of this hole of kind of starting the season off bad. And
this is at Syracuse.
This is at Syracuse, my senior year. And I just kept climbing and just like keep on sharpening my mind. I had this really great coach at Syracuse named Demetrius Nichols. He was all into meditation, working hard, doing the right things. He would get me to the gym at night, in the morning. He actually went to my high school as well. So
wow, Rhode Island, man.
Jordan DeSico. He went to the same high school as me and Jordan. So
wow.
Yeah, man. So like just climb myself out of that hole, getting better as the season went on. I just felt like I was getting better and better and better. And with the COVID year, I could have gone back for a 5th year. And with NIL, I probably could have made a lot of money. But my college coach was like, hey, like, you did what you needed to do. Like, this is your best chance to make the NBA. And at that time, I wasn't touted on any
Did you
draft
debate
boards.
it going back another year? Or was it, like, clear that like, what your coach said was the right decision and the right path?
No, I was, because that was the first time I really got to play. And I love the feeling of playing and having an impact on the game and everything like that. So I did debate going back, but ultimately I knew leaving was going to give me the best opportunity to make my dream come true. So I go into the draft process, and the draft process is brutal. Like
because I obviously I'm familiar with. I grew up an athlete, but I would love for you to just dive into that process because I mean, people like me that love sports, that watch sports, but might not know exactly the draft process. I'd love to dive into that.
Yeah. So the draft process starts literally right after your season. So I was still trying to graduate at the time. So a couple of my teachers was like, all right, you can't finish these classes because you have to leave for the draft. So
wow.
So now
that's crazy.
Yeah. So that's the first, like from a my mom was big on me getting my degree, as any mom or parents would be. So that was the first thing that kind of took away from that. But then right after the season, I flew out to Santa Barbara, signed with my agent, Niko Flapovic of BDA Sports. They have Luka Doncic, DeAndre Ayton, Miles Turner. They have all these big time guys. And then after that, I'm in Santa Barbara training for a month, just trying to get ready for all these pre-draft workouts. And then all these teams host pre-draft workouts. So, like, for example, I'll go to Boston one day, then I'll go to Atlanta the next day, then I'll go to LA.
Wow.
So I did 14 pre-draft workouts. I got invited back to 3 teams. So this is just traveling all around the country, like on commercial flights.
Yeah, just like putting in the work, just showing up.
Yeah, exactly. And during that time, I was really able to make a name for myself. I got to play against guys who maybe had better college seasons than me. Put myself in a position on draft night to feel comfortable that I was going to go to a team.
Yeah.
So that was a grind. I remember.
How long is that process? Like when you're going from city to city to city?
So draft workouts probably start around May 1st, but the bulk of the workouts start in June 1st. June 1st to June 23rd, because on June 1st, those are all the guys who are going to stay in the draft.
Yep.
So from June 1st to June 23rd, I probably had 10 workouts, and I was in 5 cities in 6 days. So that process was brutal. Yeah, I was exhausted. Crazy. And every single time, it's like having 5 job interviews in 6 days.
Yeah, and this isn't just like, hey, this is my resume. You are on the court working now. Like, it's hardcore.
Yeah,
this is like the physical challenge.
And all these guys are trying to accomplish their dreams. So it's like
not even just these guys, like peak performers in this category, the top 0.01% that you're competing with. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. So that process was wild, and but throughout the whole entire workout process, I was playing well. I was mentally sharp. I was reading. I was doing all these things. I was so locked in the moment and I was so determined to prove myself, because I felt like I had been slighted in so many ways. Like I didn't get to play for my first 3 years. I was angry about that. I got to play my last year. Got to show what I could do. Now people were saying I'm not going to get drafted. I'm not going to get picked up by a team. So it's like, all right, now I'm just even.
It's game time.
Yeah, I'm just more and more motivated to do my thing. So. After that, the draft comes. I work out with the Lakers, the Hawks, and the Bucks twice. So usually when you do that, you're in a pretty good position with those teams.
When they call you back to come work out again.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
So I work out with the Lakers June 21st.
So this is when you say June 21st, is this a year ago?
Yeah.
Wow, last June.
Last June, yeah.
Wow.
Last June. So
that's so recent.
Yeah. So June 23rd is the draft. And I have a draft party at my house, not knowing if anything's going to happen. But I only have like my close, there's probably 50, 60 people there.
Yeah.
But they're all like.
In Rhode Island?
Yeah, in Rhode Island.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like my AAU coach from 7th grade.
Wow.
Like all like the closest people to me. Because I knew that even if nothing happened, that like it was a celebration of the next step. Right. So yeah, the first round goes by. I don't get selected, which I knew what was going to happen. second round's going by, and then I get a call from my agent. He's like, LA Lakers, they want you for a 2-way contract. Like, let's do it. I'm like, yeah, like I'm in.
Oh my God.
And in that moment, I just like broke down crying. My dad came over to me. We have a pool in our backyard.
I just got the chills, man.
And it had gone from a year before of like not being on anybody's radar, being counted out, 3 years of really not playing and being behind guys and not knowing if I'm even going to make it to overseas, to now I'm with my favorite player of all time, LeBron James, and get that opportunity. So that whole night was just such a dream.
I want to go back to that moment. Sorry to cut you off, but like that moment when you get the call, like, how do you describe that feeling when you see, you don't know what this is going to say or what team, but like, what were you feeling if you had to reflect on that and express just that moment?
Yeah, I haven't really talked about it as much because it's just one of those feelings that you can't really describe, because I was just so in the moment of being there with my family and all my loved ones, and like I'd known what I had gone through to get to that point, and for it to come true, it just showed me that, I mean, in your field you could aspire to this as well, but I've never seen someone really, really work hard, do all the right things, sharpen their mind, sharpen their body, all these physical, like putting their body through everything, and not see some sort of success, right? And that just affirmed to me, it was like, if you're spiritual or not, right? If you put the work and you put the time and you do everything that you can, like, your dreams will most likely come true. Yeah. Right?
There's a quote I love. It's hard work works.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the truth. Wow. So you get the call, Lakers want you. What do the next 30, 60, 90 days of your life look like from that moment last June?
Yeah, so I get a call from the GM, Rob Pelinka. I get a call from the coach, and basically they're saying, we'll see you in 48 hours. So
oh my God.
I celebrate with my family that night. I hang out with my friends the next day because I'd just been through a brutal draft process, right?
Yeah.
So I come out to LA, and the next process in the NBA is NBA Summer League for rookies and guys who are trying to make the NBA now, right?
Yep.
So we start practicing for Summer League. Summer League, we play in San Francisco, 3 games in San Francisco, and then we go to Vegas for 5 games over a 3-week stretch. So I get out to LA. My parents come with me. They get to see the facility. They like,
wow.
And you know, this area is a dream come true, right? Like it's.
Did you come to LA a lot growing up?
No.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'd only been to California once, and
prior to getting drafted, you've been here once?
Yeah, well, wow. I'd been out here in Santa Barbara working out and training in LA, like for these workouts. But I'd been to LA once, and I thought it was like I was in Calabasas working out at Sports Academy. Yeah, and I thought that was LA. Like I had no comprehension of like where anything was.
For sure.
So my family came out here with me, my mom and dad, and it was just like an amazing experience. So we're just working out, we're training, we're just getting ready for Summer League, and I honestly had an amazing Summer League. I did all the things I wanted to do, was shooting the ball at a really high level and kind of cemented myself as a person within the Lakers organization that they valued, right? And then got to go home for 2 weeks after that, came back August 1st, and then we start working these preseason workouts. So I'm working out for like 5 weeks, and then we start having our preseason MRIs, like preseason physicals. Yep. And I get a call like a week before training camp starts. I'm killing it. I'm having these great workouts and everything like that. And I get a call from our team trainer. He's like, "Hey, you have a stress reaction in your foot." So I have a stress, and I have no pain, right? Yeah. So I'm killing it. I'm playing well. Like I have my friends visiting out here with me. I'm showing them around LA. It's just like a dream come true where everything's going right, and then kind of have like another setback, right? So I sit out like a week and a half. I'm able to play, and then they basically tell me, it's like, hey, we're going to re-image you in a month, and we'll see how it goes. So I didn't have the best preseason. I played okay in preseason, but didn't play the best. And then they called me back at the end of preseason. Was like, hey, like we want you to get another MRI. Got another MRI, and then they basically told me you're going to be out for 10 weeks after that.
Wow.
So I got back from my injury about a month ago. Okay. So I've been working my way back into shape, and I got some time on the Lakers a little bit, but right when you think, you know what I mean, everything's going well, like
yeah, man.
Adversity is always there, right? It's something that you can't avoid. But I've become a lot better in my faith and my believing of knowing that you put in the work, you do all the right things, you eat right, you sleep right, pray and do all these things, like things will work out. So man, I'm just back to grinding, back healthy, and
so you're, right now, like you're feeling great. Things are all like you're healed and everything right now.
Yeah. So
love it.
So I've been back in the lineup. With my contract, I got to rehab with the G League team and come back up with the Lakers, and been kind of going back and forth just based on where the team is right now. But I mean, it's been a great experience, man. Just being able to learn from these guys.
How's it been? Working with players like LeBron and like the Lakers overall. Like, what has that experience been like? And more importantly, like, what have you learned from this experience when it comes to hard work, discipline, and just working with a top tier team like the Lakers?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the knowledge of the game, right? Because obviously LeBron puts in the work on his body, his mental, everything like that. But to really have you're in the top 1 point, like you said, 0.01%.
Yeah.
Like there's only been 4,000 guys who've ever played in the NBA. Period.
Wow, I did not know that stat.
Ever in the history of
4,000?
like 4,500 or something like that. Like you're part of the top 510 players in the world.
Yeah.
So obviously that's an honor.
Crazy.
That's an honor in itself. But just being around LeBron and Russ and AD and just seeing like how they like think the game, right? And that's what really separates them, because there's been a lot of athletic guys. There's been a lot of guys who have the physical talent, but for them to take care of the body the way they do, to watch the film, to be with the coaches, to be able to make their teammates better. It's been an amazing experience, and it's honestly opened my eyes to what I could possibly be in the future as I continue to evolve. Do I have the physical talents that they have? I mean, no one does, right? but the things I can do to enhance myself and get better and get as close as possible as I can physically, and then from the mental side, be on a whole different level mentally. That's what I'm striving to be.
I love that. Have you when it comes to the interactions with different players in the team, just what does like teamwork look like for the Lakers for you, and how do you describe the team aspect of what it is you guys do together?
Yeah, I think the team aspect is something that evolves over time, right? It's one of those things that you've played in sports, and you know how the season, like you're all going through it together, right?
Yeah.
And the wins, the losses, the good times, the bad times, it just makes you closer throughout the year. So like we've evolved into being I think a pretty close team. And LeBron is such a great leader of men. Like even when he's talking to you, he knows how to like react with or like talk to each person on the team, right? So like he might talk to this person differently than he talks to this person, and every great leader I've been around has been able to do that. Like for example, like I told a story on my podcast, but we're playing against the Mavericks. Luka Doncic is one of the best players in the world. He's an absolute magician with the ball, but when he gets on the left wing, he has a certain move he goes to, and we all knew that in the scouting report. So I get matched up on Luke on the left wing. He does that move. He does a step back. I'm right here in his face. He makes the shot. 2 plays later, one of our other rookies, Max Christie, who's had a great year, he gets matched up on Luka. Luka does the same move, step back, makes the same shot. So our coach calls a timeout. Yeah. LeBron's like, rookies, you guys are playing hard as shit right now. But you got to lock it on the scouting report. You got to know those things. Like we don't care if he does some other things, but just don't mess up on that play. And for him to stop and be like, you guys are playing hard. Yeah. But you just got to be mentally a little bit more focused. Like he could have just yelled at us. He could have screamed, like, you know what I mean? But he was able to be in the moment, realize that we're young, we're trying our best, we're doing all the things that we can, but just be that 1 second better, that point, like millisecond better.
That's powerful from like a leadership perspective.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And also like as a leader, like he gets on guys who he knows is gonna respond, and if he didn't care, if he thought that we were just 2 regular guys who weren't gonna be on the team, then he might not respond like that. But just to have that wherewithal, that being in the moment, the being in the now, I mean, it shows you why he's about to be the all-time leading scorer ever. Yeah,
no, that's powerful. I mean, speaking of that, you guys got some big games this week. Yeah. You got tomorrow, Thursday.
Yep.
What is that like? Because, you can think about this all-time leading scorer as a moment, as like a destination for him. But he's been every game. This is a build-up of the last, however, how many seasons has he been in the league? 20, right?
20 season.
20 seasons of a build-up. Like, from being on the team, is this even something that he even thinks about? Or is it just another day where he's like, oh, this is, like, not even him specifically, but this is a big week, right? He's going to break the record. How do you think, as someone that's on his team, how does that make him feel? Is it like, this is great, or is it just another day?
Man, he's been so locked in on the present. I mean, he's talked about it in certain interviews. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit here and there. Like, he thinks he can play another like 4 or 5 years. Like, legit. He's like, as long as my mind's sharp. Yeah. He's like, I've done all the things that physically. Like, he thinks he put. So, I think he's just so locked in on the moment, and he hasn't let that pressure get to him. Right. Like.
Yep.
He's 36 points away right now. He could easily score 45 points tomorrow, and it could result in us maybe losing because he's trying to get the record. Yeah. He would never do that to the team. He's such a team-first guy, and he's 38 playing back-to-backs and traveling from city to city and trying to sacrifice so we can make the playoffs, so we can be in a position to contend for a championship. And I don't know, it's just like so impressive, the things that he does to take care of his body, be in the best shape. And I know I keep saying it, but like just like how mentally sharp he is to not put that pressure on anyone else of like, well, the scoring title's coming up. I need to score 45. Like, he does whatever the team needs. If like, for example, like on his 38th birthday, we're playing against Atlanta, AD's out. He goes out there and scores 47 and we win the game. Like, he has that knowledge of knowing, like, all right, like tonight I need to score 47, but the next game I might only need to score 25 and get AD involved and get this guy involved, so he feels confident going to the next game. Yep. Like, it's just unbelievable how he's broken down the game and being able to – he can get any shot on the court he wants. He can make any pass he wants. Like, he's just such a present individual.
Wow. That's so cool to hear that from your perspective. Like, as someone that's a rookie that's learning these things in real time, just – hearing you talk about that, like, it's so different than just, you know, maybe listening to him in an interview, but someone that's in his presence, that's learning from like being there with him and with the team. Yeah. It's such a cool perspective. Couple more questions before we wrap up, Cole. I know you hinted at a little bit during the podcast, but you yourself, you have a podcast. Yeah. I've had a podcast for 5 years. Love the industry. It's so fun. When did the podcast come up in your world, and you know, what led to you starting it?
Yeah, so in college, I mean, I had 2 friends. We'd always talk about starting a podcast. We were joking around about it. We had a group chat. We just thought of the idea. And guys like JJ Redick and Duncan Robinson, they have these very successful podcasts. And I mean, being a white shooter and kind of falling into that role, I always thought it was very interesting. So I was actually with the Lakers in August. I was out here doing preseason workouts, playing well, doing all these things, but I was working out from like 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., doing everything I could, from massages to getting up extra shots, being in the gym early and trying to beat LeBron in the gym and doing all these things to now it's 1 p.m. It's probably not smart to go back to the gym for another 3 hours and because you have an 82-game season coming up. I have a stress reaction. Yeah, I got a stress reaction, right? So I called one of my friends one day. I was really bored, and I was like, hey, like, what do you think about the podcast now? Like, he's working in New York City. He has a full-time job. I was like this would be a great thing for me to kind of have on the side. That's not a lot of pressure, right? Like it's work. Yeah. You know what I mean, you got to put work into it, but it's not a lot of pressure in terms of like performing. Like I can relax talking to my friends and my other friends in the NBA and all these things like that. So we started the podcast just off of like I was bored and I was really interested in the industry, and it's led to some great conversations. I've gotten better throughout the time of podcasting. Love it. It's definitely a different being on the other side of it, being a producer role or the interviewer in the podcast, right? I'd gone on podcasts before, but really getting into these researches of even my friends, right? Yeah. Like it's been a really fun process, and interviewing some of my teammates with the Lakers, and recently signed with Blue Wire, which is a big step for us. And
that's so awesome. I've been with Blue Wire for over a year now, and I love Kevin, the whole team. They're so good.
Yeah, they've been great to us. I mean, we just signed with them like 3 weeks ago, and
oh wow, very recent.
Yeah, so like our viewership's gone up. Yeah, and they've even plugged us in with a couple guys that we can interview in the future. And
epic.
We'd love to have you on the podcast sometime too, man.
Let's do it. Let's do it for sure. Do you guys record in the studio as well?
No, so we actually we're on Zoom right now.
Okay.
My friend actually works in New York City. He's actually out here in LA now, but
Epic.
Yeah, we've just been doing over Zoom, and
okay.
We have a couple of things planned of doing live episodes in
Vegas.
the summer. Yeah, in Vegas. Yeah, so
that's fun.
I'm obviously there for 2 weeks for summer league anyway. So bringing the guys out and trying to interview some of my friends or some NBA guys out there.
Their studio is gnarly. I went back last year. I think I went like 6 times, like every other month.
Wow.
Then I'm going in April and May. I'm gonna have Jordan on the show again. I've had Jordan on the show like 2 times. But
yeah.
Keep bringing him back. You know, they're always building and growing.
Oh, big time. I mean, yeah, he's done amazing. It's funny, like.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too, because like before we wrap up, Jordan DeSico.
Yeah.
We've been friends for years. He's been on the podcast twice. I've had his brother Jake on the show, I think twice as well. And he's staying with me, and he's like, "Oh my God, I've known Cole since high school." Like, how did that relationship start?
Yeah, so I was one of those kids that the high school that he went to, I would go and just play open gym with those guys, right? I was from 30 minutes away, and I was looking at the school as a potential school I was going to. So they had a great team at the time. They had a guy who ended up going to Notre Dame. They had a guy who ended up going to Pittsburgh, and Jordan was a really good player at the time. And Jordan's actually famous for, at St. Andrews, he's always kind of had that business mindset. He was selling burgers out of his dorm room just to make some money on the side. Like I love it. He's famous for that, right? So after that, they stopped letting people sell burgers and everything like that. Like, they stopped all that stuff. But yeah, no. So ever since then, me and Jordan have kept in contact. He went to Philly U for a year, which is Division II basketball school. He was playing really well, and then he decided to start this his own business. And we always, like, Coach Hart, our high school coach, always talks about Jordan, and we've kept in contact because we're both young guys who work really hard and kind of have these things in common. So
that's so man. Cool. That's epic. When I heard the connection there, I was like, that's so epic.
Yeah.
2 more questions before we wrap up. Just, you know, as you said, less than 4,000 people have ever been in the NBA, the top like 510 in the world in terms of like the athletes currently in the league.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to your younger self that had this idea, this goal, these aspirations to be in the league? Like, when it comes to a piece of advice that you'd give your younger self?
Yeah, man, I would just say just work hard and believe. I mean, obviously things have to go in your favor to get to a certain point, right? I mean, my dad being 6'8", my mom being 6'3", I get to be 6'9", and have that blessing, right? But I would tell my younger self, adversity is going to hit. Just keep going, be positive, and just trust the plan, right? Even now, I'm not in a situation where I've signed a 5-year guaranteed contract, and so like I haven't really sat back and been in the moment and been like, oh shoot, like you're where you want to be, because I'm not. I still want to go farther in the game, right? But I was talking to my dad, and like my dad ended up quitting his sophomore year of college of basketball, and it was always like that, like regret for him was like what he could have been, right?
Yep.
So our dream was always for me to make it to the NBA. And there was times at Villanova where I didn't know if I was going to make it there. So kind of having that moment with him after I got that call was like, all right, like we did it, right?
That's so crazy.
So that's kind of the only kind of moment I've sat back. But yeah, I would just tell all kids who are aspiring, like, I'm from Portsmouth, Rhode Island. Like I'm from I'm from the smallest state in the country. Like, put your head down, do the right things. People are going to doubt you.
Yep.
Even in your own hometown, right? Like, people are going to say you can't do this and that, but just keep dreaming.
I love it, man. No, it's powerful. And like, last question, and you're talking about it briefly now, but just looking into the future, what are you excited about? Like, what keeps you dialed in, and, you know, where can people continue to follow along your journey?
Yeah, I think I feel like I can get so much better, right? Like, whenever there's a point that you can get better and you're not in your prime and you can just keep climbing, I'm excited for that, and I'm excited for the process, right? I think when
I love that, excited for the process.
When you're a successful person, I mean, I've tried to, every single person that I've seen I've tried to get close to them. What makes you successful, right? And it's the things that other people don't want to do, and it's the process, right? Like, for example, like tonight I'm going to go back to the gym and work out, because I love the process of me shooting the gym. Does that mean I'm going to have 40 points next game? No. but it's constantly chipping away at what I can be in the future, because I know. And some days it might be resting is the best thing for me to do. Some days it might be stretching and doing those things. But I'm excited for the process of me getting there. And it's going to include hardships. It's going to include adversity. And sometimes, like, when you're shooting well and you're playing well and everything's going right, that's easy. Anyone could be a front runner, right? Yeah. But when adversity hits, when you get a stress reaction, when you're missing shots, when you're not playing well, when everyone says you stink, I kind of look forward to those moments, because now I get to reset and I get to prove people wrong again, right? So,
yep. Well, there's a guy I had on the podcast. His name's Trevor Moad, and he was the brain trainer for Russell Wilson in the NFL.
Wow.
And he sadly passed away just over a year and a half ago. But his quote that I always think about, like I just popped in my mind, is pressure is a privilege.
Yeah.
And that's what he always said to different players that he worked with in the NFL, because it's like when you have that pressure of, things that keep going well, you want to level up your career, like that's a privilege, and you gotta take that and run with it, because everything you're living now was once a dream, once a thought, and now that you have this pressure to get better, to be in the league for X amount of years, like you got to really take advantage of that pressure.
It's like who would have thought that I was going to be playing with LeBron James a year ago, and I have the pressure of playing with LeBron, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
That's something that I could only dream about, and to be like present in the moment and like, all right, like I need to do this and that, and then like don't even like pressure is like Damian Lillard had a great quote one time. He was like, pressure is you're on the street with your family, you have kids, and you need to find a way to feed them. Like, I'm in the NBA playing with LeBron and make a lot of money and get to live out my dream. Like, there's certain pressures that come with it, but when you step back and realize that it's not real pressure, right?
Yeah, I love that. Well, Cole, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today. Where's the best place for everyone to follow you, to listen to the podcast, and just stay in touch with you throughout your journey?
So it's called the Cole Swider Show. We're on all platforms. And Cole Swider on Instagram, Cole Swider 21 on Twitter. And yeah, man, just email us at swidershow@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, @Swider Show. And yeah, man, me and my co-host Patty Casey, we're more of a basketball podcast, and but we've had our fair share of people come on, intellects and just successful people. So
love that.
Yeah, man, it's been a great experience, and I'm excited to continue to grow and watch you continue to grow as well, Casey. Thank you for having me, man.
Of course. Thank you so much, Cole. And for everyone watching or listening, I will make sure to link everything down below. So make sure you go follow Cole, check him out on all platforms. And thank you so much for tuning in today. I'll talk to you guys soon.